Living in today's world often feels like we're constantly dependent on external systems for our most basic needs. The grocery store for food, the power grid for electricity, complex supply chains for nearly everything we use daily. But what if that didn't have to be the case? What if you could take meaningful steps toward greater independence and resilience right from where you are today? Self sufficiency isn't about abandoning modern life and retreating to a remote cabin, though that's certainly one path. It's about gradually building skills, systems, and mindsets that reduce your dependence on external sources for your fundamental needs. It's about creating a buffer between you and the uncertainty of complex systems. And perhaps most importantly, it's about reconnecting with the satisfaction that comes from providing for yourself and your family through your own hands and knowledge. The beautiful thing about self sufficiency is that it exists on a spectrum. You don't need to go from zero to completely off grid overnight. Every small step you take toward greater independence is valuable. Every skill you develop, every system you put in place, every bit of knowledge you acquire moves you further along this path. And the journey itself is often as rewarding as the destination. Now, before we dive into the practical steps, let's address what self sufficiency actually means in the modern context. It's not about cutting yourself off from society or rejecting all the conveniences of contemporary life. Rather, it's about developing the capability to meet your essential needs through your own resources and abilities. It's about having options when systems fail or become unavailable. It's about resilience, not isolation. The foundation of any self sufficient lifestyle rests on what we call the four pillars: shelter, water, food, and energy. These are the non negotiables, the basic requirements for sustaining life. Everything else, while potentially valuable, is secondary to these core needs. When you begin thinking about self sufficiency, these four areas should be your primary focus. But here's what most people get wrong when they start this journey: they think they need to tackle everything at once. They see the end goal and feel overwhelmed by the gap between where they are and where they want to be. This leads to paralysis, to putting off starting because the task seems too enormous. That's exactly the opposite of what you should do. The secret to building genuine self sufficiency is to start small and build systematically. Each skill you develop, each system you implement, creates a foundation for the next step. It's like building a house. You don't start with the roof. You begin with a solid foundation and work your way up one level at a time. Let's start with assessment because you can't plan a journey without knowing where you're starting from. Right now, take a moment to honestly evaluate your current situation. How dependent are you on external systems? What would happen if the power went out for a week? If the grocery stores were closed? If the water stopped flowing from your taps? These aren't doomsday scenarios. They're practical realities that many people face due to natural disasters, infrastructure failures, or economic disruptions. This assessment isn't meant to frighten you, but to give you a clear picture of where you stand. When you understand your vulnerabilities, you can prioritize which areas to address first. Maybe you live in an apartment and growing your own food seems impossible, but you could start with water storage and food preservation. Perhaps you have a yard but no gardening experience, making that an obvious starting point. The key is to be realistic about your starting point while remaining optimistic about your potential. Everyone begins somewhere, and the skills that seem impossible today become second nature with practice and time. The person who can't keep a houseplant alive can learn to grow enough vegetables to feed their family. The individual who's never held a hammer can learn to build furniture or repair their home. The transformation happens one small step at a time. Location plays a crucial role in your self sufficiency journey, but it's not the limiting factor many people think it is. Yes, having acres of land makes certain aspects easier, but you can begin building self sufficiency regardless of whether you live in a studio apartment, suburban home, or rural property. The strategies and priorities will differ, but the fundamental principles remain the same. Urban self sufficiency might focus heavily on food preservation, small space growing techniques, and skill development. Suburban settings often provide more opportunities for gardening, rainwater collection, and small scale renewable energy systems. Rural environments offer the most possibilities, but also require the broadest skill set to manage larger systems and properties. Regardless of your location, the mindset shift is the same. You're moving from being purely a consumer to becoming a producer. You're developing the ability to create value rather than just purchase it. This shift in perspective is often more important than any specific skill or system you implement. Skills form the backbone of self sufficiency because they can't be taken away from you. Unlike stored supplies or installed systems, your knowledge and abilities travel with you and improve with use. When you're deciding where to invest your time and energy, skills should be a top priority. Start with the skills that provide the most immediate benefit and build from there. Basic food preservation techniques like canning, dehydrating, and fermentation allow you to extend the life of food and reduce waste. These skills also provide a foundation for more advanced food production and storage systems later. Learning to repair and maintain things rather than replacing them is another high impact skill area. Whether it's sewing to mend clothes, basic carpentry for home repairs, or mechanical skills for maintaining tools and equipment, these abilities save money while building capability. They also develop problem solving skills and confidence that serve you well in all areas of life. The compound effect of skill development is remarkable. Each new skill you acquire makes learning the next one easier. The confidence you gain from successfully growing your first vegetables makes tackling rainwater collection less intimidating. The problem-solving abilities you develop through one project transfer to others. Over time, you build a comprehensive toolkit of capabilities that make you increasingly self-reliant. Resource management is where many people struggle in their self-sufficiency journey. They either try to do too much too fast and burn out, or they get paralyzed by the scope of what they want to accomplish. The key is to think in terms of systems rather than projects. A system is a collection of interconnected components that work together to achieve a goal. In self-sufficiency, your systems might include water collection and storage, food production and preservation, energy generation and conservation, and waste management and recycling. Each system supports the others, creating a network of capabilities that's greater than the sum of its parts. When you're planning your self-sufficiency journey, think about how different systems can work together. A rainwater collection system provides water for your garden, which produces food for preservation, which reduces your grocery costs, which frees up money for other improvements. The compost system processes your organic waste while creating fertilizer for your garden. The solar panels reduce your electricity costs while providing backup power for essential systems. This interconnected approach is more efficient than trying to build isolated capabilities. It also makes the journey more sustainable because each system reinforces the others, creating momentum that carries you forward. The timeline for building self-sufficiency varies dramatically based on your starting point, resources, and goals. Some people make significant progress in a few months, while others take years to develop comprehensive capabilities. The important thing is to maintain steady progress rather than trying to rush the process. Think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. Consistency beats intensity in the long run. It's better to spend a little time each week developing your capabilities than to have intense bursts of activity followed by long periods of inaction. The skills and systems you're building need time to develop and mature. Set realistic milestones along the way. Maybe your first milestone is storing a week's worth of water and food. The next might be growing enough vegetables to supply your salads for a summer. Then perhaps preserving enough food to last through winter. Each milestone builds on the previous ones while keeping you motivated and focused. The psychological aspects of self-sufficiency are often overlooked, but they're crucial to long-term success. Building self-reliance challenges many of the assumptions we've grown up with about how life should work. It requires developing comfort with uncertainty, willingness to learn from failure, and patience with gradual progress. One of the biggest mental shifts is moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. Instead of thinking about what you lack, focus on what you can create. Instead of worrying about potential problems, concentrate on building solutions. This shift in perspective makes the journey more enjoyable and sustainable. The confidence that comes from developing self-sufficiency skills extends far beyond the practical benefits. When you know you can provide for yourself and your family, you approach challenges with a different mindset. You're less anxious about economic uncertainty because you have alternatives. You're more resilient in the face of difficulties because you've developed problem solving skills and self reliance. Community plays a vital role in sustainable self sufficiency. While the term might suggest isolation, the reality is that the most successful self sufficient people are often deeply connected to their communities. They trade skills, share resources, and support each other through challenges. Building relationships with like minded people accelerates your learning and provides backup systems for when your own capabilities fall short. The neighbor who's excellent at mechanical repairs might trade services with you if you're skilled at food preservation. The local gardening club becomes a source of knowledge, seeds, and support. This community aspect also makes the journey more enjoyable. Learning and building alongside others creates shared experiences and friendships that enrich your life beyond the practical benefits. It transforms what could be a solitary struggle into a collaborative adventure. The economic benefits of self sufficiency often surprise people. While there are upfront costs for establishing systems and learning skills, the long term savings can be substantial. Growing your own food, generating your own power, and maintaining your own equipment reduces ongoing expenses while building assets. But the economic benefits go beyond simple cost savings. The skills you develop often have market value. The person who becomes skilled at food preservation might start selling at farmers markets. The individual who masters small scale renewable energy might begin consulting for others. Self sufficiency skills often create opportunities for additional income streams. More importantly, self sufficiency reduces your dependence on monetary income to meet your basic needs. When you can provide your own food, water, and energy, you need less money to maintain your standard of living. This financial independence provides security and flexibility that money in the bank can't match. Starting your self sufficiency journey might feel overwhelming when you consider everything you want to eventually accomplish. But remember that every expert was once a beginner. Every skill you admire in others was developed through practice and persistence. The key is to start where you are with what you have and build from there. The path to self sufficiency is deeply personal. Your journey will look different from anyone else's because your circumstances, resources, and goals are unique. Embrace this individuality rather than trying to copy someone else's approach exactly. Use others' experiences as inspiration and guidance, but adapt their methods to fit your situation. The most important step is the first one. Whether it's planting your first seeds, storing your first gallon of water, or learning your first preservation technique, taking action creates momentum. Each small step builds confidence and capability, making the next step easier and more natural. Self-sufficiency isn't about perfection or achieving some ideal state of complete independence. It's about progress, about building capabilities and resilience over time. It's about creating options and developing the skills and systems that allow you to thrive regardless of what challenges come your way. The journey itself is transformative. As you develop these capabilities, you'll find yourself becoming more confident, more creative, and more connected to the natural world. You'll gain a deeper appreciation for the simple things in life and a greater sense of security in your ability to provide for yourself and those you care about. The world is changing rapidly, and the systems we've relied on for generations are facing unprecedented challenges. By building self-sufficiency, you're not just preparing for potential problems, you're creating opportunities for a more fulfilling and resilient way of life. You're joining a growing movement of people who are taking responsibility for their own well-being while building stronger, more connected communities. Every small step you take toward self-sufficiency is an investment in your future security and happiness. Every skill you develop, every system you implement, every bit of knowledge you acquire makes you more capable and resilient. The journey may seem long from where you stand today, but every step forward is progress worth celebrating. Now that you've established your foundation and gotten your bearings, it's time to dive into the actual nuts and bolts of building self-sufficient systems. This is where the rubber meets the road, where those grand visions of independence transform into tangible skills and practical knowledge that can genuinely change how you live. But here's the thing most people don't realize about developing self sufficiency skills. It's not about becoming a master of everything overnight. It's about building interconnected capabilities that compound over time, creating a web of knowledge that makes you more resilient with each passing month. Let's start with food systems because, frankly, nothing teaches you self sufficiency quite like growing your own meals. But I'm not talking about jumping straight into some massive homestead operation with acres of vegetables and herds of livestock. That's a recipe for overwhelm and burnout. Instead, we're talking about starting small and smart. Maybe it's a windowsill herb garden that saves you $20 a month on fresh basil and oregano. Maybe it's a few tomato plants in containers on your balcony. The magic isn't in the scale initially, it's in the learning. Here's what happens when you start growing your own food. You begin to understand seasons in a way that grocery stores never taught you. You learn that plants have rhythms, needs, and preferences. You discover that soil isn't just dirt, it's a living ecosystem teeming with microorganisms that can make or break your harvest. You realize that water isn't just something you turn on from a tap, but a precious resource that needs to be managed, conserved, and distributed thoughtfully. But more importantly, you start to see connections. The compost bin that turns your kitchen scraps into rich soil amendment. The rainwater collection system that irrigates your plants while reducing your water bill. The companion planting that naturally deters pests without chemicals. Each element supporting the others, creating a system that becomes more efficient and productive over time. And here's where it gets really interesting. Once you've mastered growing a few things successfully, you naturally start thinking about preservation. Because there's nothing quite like the panic of realizing your tomato plants have produced more fruit than you can possibly eat before it spoils. This is when you dive into canning, dehydrating, fermenting, and freezing. These aren't just quaint, old fashioned skills, they're modern superpowers that can cut your food costs dramatically while ensuring you have nutritious meals year round. Learning to preserve food opens up entire new worlds of possibility. You start buying produce in bulk when it's in season and cheap. You begin hunting for deals at farmers markets near closing time. You discover that the slightly bruised fruits and vegetables that stores can't sell make perfectly good preserves and dried goods. Your kitchen transforms from a place where you simply heat up pre-made meals into a food processing center, where raw ingredients become shelf-stable treasures. But food is just one piece of the puzzle. Water systems are equally crucial, and they're often easier to implement than people think. Rainwater harvesting can be as simple as placing a barrel under your downspout, or as sophisticated as a multi-tank system with filtration and pumps. The key is understanding your local regulations, your roof area, and your actual water usage patterns. Many people are shocked to discover how much water they can collect from even modest amounts of rainfall. Water conservation goes hand in hand with collection. Low flow fixtures, gray water systems that reuse water from sinks and showers for irrigation, and simple behavioral changes can dramatically reduce your dependence on municipal water supplies. And here's the beautiful part. These systems often pay for themselves through reduced utility bills, making them investments rather than expenses. Energy systems represent another frontier of self-sufficiency that's becoming increasingly accessible. Solar panels have dropped dramatically in price over the past decade, and battery storage systems are following suit. But energy independence isn't just about installing panels on your roof. It's about understanding your energy consumption patterns, identifying your biggest energy hogs, and finding ways to reduce demand before you invest in supply. This is where energy audits become invaluable. You start tracking which appliances use the most electricity when you use power throughout the day, and how seasonal changes affect your consumption. You discover that simple changes like switching to LED bulbs, unplugging devices when not in use, and adjusting your thermostat can reduce your energy needs significantly. And when you do invest in renewable energy systems, you need fewer panels and batteries because you've already optimized your consumption. But let's talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention: repair and maintenance skills. In our throwaway culture, we've lost the art of fixing things, but developing repair skills is one of the most powerful forms of self sufficiency you can cultivate. It saves money, reduces waste, and gives you a deep understanding of how things work. Start with basic sewing and mending. Learn to patch holes, replace buttons, and hem pants. These simple skills can extend the life of clothing by years. Move on to basic electrical work, replacing outlets, switches, and light fixtures. Learn plumbing basics, fixing leaky faucets, unclogging drains, and replacing toilet components. Develop woodworking skills for furniture repair and basic construction projects. Each skill you master makes you less dependent on expensive service calls and gives you the confidence to tackle increasingly complex projects. And here's the secret: most repairs are far simpler than they appear. The internet is filled with tutorials for virtually any repair you can imagine. The main barrier isn't complexity, it's the willingness to try. Tool acquisition becomes part of this journey, but it doesn't have to break the bank. Buy quality tools gradually, focusing on versatile pieces that serve multiple functions. A good drill, a set of screwdrivers, basic wrenches, a level, a saw, and a multimeter will handle a surprising number of repair and maintenance tasks. Estate sales, garage sales, and online marketplaces are excellent sources for quality used tools at fraction of retail prices. Storage and organization systems support all of these skills. You need places to store tools, spare parts, preserved foods, and emergency supplies. But storage isn't just about having enough space, it's about having organized space where you can find what you need when you need it. This is where investing time in proper shelving, labeling systems, and inventory management pays dividends. Consider developing a simple inventory system for your stored goods. Know what you have, where it's located, and when it expires. This prevents waste, reduces duplicate purchases, and ensures you can actually use your stored resources when needed. Many people accumulate supplies but can't find them when emergencies strike. Communication and information systems deserve attention too. Having offline access to crucial information becomes important when you're developing self-sufficiency. This might mean printing out key reference materials, downloading important documents, or maintaining physical books on topics like gardening, repair, and food preservation. Digital systems are convenient, but they're vulnerable to power outages and equipment failures. Consider investing in alternative communication methods. A basic ham radio setup can provide communication capabilities when cell towers are down. Weather radios keep you informed about severe weather and emergency broadcasts. These systems require some learning and licensing, but they can be lifelines during disasters. Financial systems interweave with all of these skills. Self-sufficiency often requires upfront investments that pay dividends over time. This is where budgeting and financial planning become crucial. You might need to prioritize purchases, spread investments over time, or find creative financing solutions. But here's something interesting. Many self-sufficiency projects can generate income. Excess produce from your garden can be sold at farmers markets. Preserved foods make excellent gifts that people actually want. Repair skills can become side businesses. Renewable energy systems might generate credits with your utility company. The transition to self-sufficiency can actually improve your financial situation while reducing your dependencies. Community connections amplify all of these skills. Find local gardening clubs, makerspaces, and skill-sharing groups. These communities provide knowledge, tools, and support that accelerate your learning. They also create redundancy in your self-sufficiency systems. When your tomato crop fails, someone else's might succeed. When you need a specialized tool for a one-time project, someone in your network probably has one. Bartering and resource sharing become natural extensions of these relationships. You might trade preserved foods for fresh eggs, or exchange repair services for garden produce. These arrangements build resilience while strengthening community bonds. They also provide backup systems when your own efforts fall short. The psychological aspects of skill development can't be ignored. Each new capability you master builds confidence and reduces anxiety about the future. There's something deeply satisfying about solving problems with your own hands and knowledge. This confidence creates a positive feedback loop that encourages further learning and skill development. But pace yourself. Trying to master everything at once leads to burnout and frustration. Pick one area to focus on intensively while dabbling in others. Maybe spend this year really dialing in your food production while learning basic repair skills on the side. Next year, you might focus on energy systems while maintaining your food production. The key is consistent progress rather than perfection. Documentation becomes important as you develop these skills. Keep notes on what works, what doesn't, and what you'd do differently next time. This creates a personal reference library that becomes invaluable over time. It also helps you track your progress and identify areas where you need additional learning. Remember that self-sufficiency isn't about isolation or going it alone. It's about building capabilities that give you choices and resilience. The goal isn't to never need anything from anyone, but to be able to handle more situations independently while maintaining strong connections with others who share similar values and goals. These skills compound over time in ways that might surprise you. The person who learns to grow food naturally starts thinking about seed saving. The person who masters basic repairs starts designing and building new systems. The person who develops energy independence starts helping others do the same. Each skill opens doors to new possibilities and deeper levels of self-reliance. The journey of developing self-sufficiency skills is really a journey of rediscovering human capabilities that were once common knowledge. Our grandparents and great-grandparents possessed many of these skills by necessity. We have the opportunity to reclaim them by choice, supported by modern tools and information that make learning faster and more efficient than ever before. Now that we've covered the fundamentals of assessing your vulnerabilities and building your initial systems, let's dive into the more advanced strategies that will truly transform your path towards self-sufficiency. This is where things get genuinely exciting because we're moving beyond the basics into the realm of creating interconnected systems that work together to strengthen your overall resilience. The beautiful thing about this stage is that you're no longer just learning individual skills in isolation. You're starting to see how everything connects, how your water collection system can support your food production, how your energy systems can power your preservation methods, and how your repair skills can maintain all of these systems indefinitely. It's like watching a puzzle come together where each piece makes every other piece more valuable. Let's start with something that often gets overlooked but is absolutely crucial for long-term success: developing your resource management mindset. This isn't about hoarding supplies or becoming obsessed with stockpiling. It's about understanding the flow of resources through your life and learning to optimize that flow for maximum efficiency and minimum waste. Think about it this way. In our modern consumer culture, we've become accustomed to a linear resource model. We buy something, use it, and throw it away. But self-sufficiency operates on circular principles where waste from one system becomes input for another. Your kitchen scraps become compost for your garden. Your gray water becomes irrigation for your trees. Your old clothes become cleaning rags or garden ties. This shift in thinking is profound, and it changes everything about how you approach daily life. The key is to start seeing everything that comes into your home as a potential resource rather than eventual waste. That glass jar doesn't just hold pasta sauce, it's a future storage container. That cardboard box isn't just packaging, it's garden mulch waiting to happen. Those vegetable scraps aren't trash, they're the foundation of next year's soil fertility. This perspective shift alone can reduce your dependence on external systems while building the resources you need for greater self-sufficiency. Now let's talk about energy systems, because this is where many people get intimidated, but it really doesn't have to be complicated. The goal isn't to power your entire home with solar panels on day one. The goal is to gradually reduce your dependence on the grid while building your understanding of energy production and storage. Start with small, manageable projects that teach you the principles without overwhelming your budget or your learning curve. A simple solar battery bank that can charge your devices and power a few LED lights is an excellent first step. You'll learn about solar panels, charge controllers, batteries, and inverters without the complexity of a whole house system. More importantly, you'll have a backup power source that can keep essential devices running during outages. As you become comfortable with these basics, you can gradually expand your system, add more panels, increase your battery capacity, power more devices. Each expansion teaches you something new while providing immediate practical benefits. The beauty of this approach is that you're building real capability while keeping your initial investment reasonable. But energy isn't just about electricity. Heat is energy too, and it's often easier to generate and store than electrical power. A simple solar water heater can be built for a fraction of the cost of an electric system and will provide hot water even when the power is out. Wood heating systems, while requiring more active management, can provide both heat and hot water while being completely independent of the electrical grid. The key principle here is diversification. Don't put all your energy eggs in one basket, have multiple sources of power and heat so that if one system fails or isn't available, others can pick up the slack. This redundancy is what creates true resilience. Food preservation is another area where small investments in knowledge and equipment can pay enormous dividends. We've talked about basic preservation methods, but let's dig deeper into creating a comprehensive food security system that can handle abundance and scarcity with equal grace. Canning and dehydrating are excellent starting points, but fermentation is where things get really interesting. Fermentation doesn't just preserve food, it actually improves its nutritional value while creating completely new flavors and textures. Sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented pickles, and cultured dairy products are all examples of fermentation, turning simple ingredients into complex, nutritious foods that can be stored for months without refrigeration. The beautiful thing about fermentation is that it requires no external energy once you understand the process. The microorganisms do all the work. You just need to create the right conditions and let nature take its course. This is self-sufficiency at its most elegant, working with natural processes rather than fighting against them. Root cellars and cold storage are other preservation methods that deserve serious consideration. A properly constructed root cellar can store potatoes, apples, carrots, and other produce for months without any energy input whatsoever. Even if you don't have space for a traditional root cellar, you can apply the same principles to create cold storage areas in basements, garages, or even outdoor buried containers. The goal is to create multiple preservation methods so you can handle whatever abundance your garden or local sources provide. When the apple trees are heavy with fruit, you can make applesauce for canning, apple chips for dehydrating, apple cider for fermentation, and store the best apples in cold storage. Nothing goes to waste, and you have apple products available throughout the year. Water systems deserve special attention because water is life, and having secure access to clean water is non-negotiable. We've covered basic rainwater collection, but let's explore more sophisticated approaches that can provide genuine water security even in challenging conditions. Gray water systems are incredibly valuable because they allow you to reuse water from sinks, showers, and washing machines for irrigation purposes. This effectively doubles your water efficiency while reducing both your consumption and your waste output. A simple gray water system can be as basic as redirecting your washing machine drain to water your fruit trees, or as sophisticated as a constructed wetland that treats and filters the water before it reaches your garden. Water storage is equally important. Having a few days' worth of drinking water stored is a good start, but having weeks or months of water storage capacity provides real security. This doesn't necessarily mean giant tanks taking up your yard. It can mean multiple smaller containers distributed throughout your property, or even something as simple as clean barrels that can be filled quickly when needed. Water filtration and purification systems are essential components of any serious water security plan. Having multiple methods for making questionable water safe to drink means you can utilize sources that might otherwise be unavailable. Ceramic filters, UV sterilizers, boiling, and chemical treatments all have their place in a comprehensive water security system. The key is redundancy and flexibility. Have multiple sources of water, multiple methods of storage, and multiple ways to treat water for safe consumption. This creates a robust system that can handle various challenges and disruptions. Skill development at this stage becomes more specialized and interconnected. You're not just learning individual techniques anymore, you're learning how to troubleshoot complex systems, how to adapt solutions to changing conditions, and how to innovate when standard approaches don't work. Mechanical skills become increasingly valuable as your systems become more complex. Understanding basic electrical work, plumbing, carpentry, and small engine repair means you can maintain and modify your systems rather than depending on specialists. This doesn't mean you need to become an expert in everything, but having a solid foundation in these areas provides tremendous independence. The beautiful thing about developing these skills is that they reinforce each other. The electrical knowledge you gain from your solar system helps you understand your water pump systems. The plumbing skills you develop for your gray water system help you design better irrigation systems. The carpentry skills you build, constructing raised beds, help you create better storage solutions. Documentation becomes crucial at this stage because you're managing multiple interconnected systems. Keep detailed records of what works, what doesn't, and why. Document your system modifications, your seasonal routines, and your troubleshooting procedures. This knowledge base becomes invaluable as your systems grow more complex and as you help others develop their own self-sufficiency skills. Community connections become even more important as you develop advanced systems. This is where you can really leverage shared knowledge and resources. Maybe you specialize in food preservation while your neighbor focuses on renewable energy. You can share knowledge, trade services, and even share equipment that might be too expensive for individual ownership. Consider organizing skill-sharing workshops in your community. Teaching others what you've learned reinforces your own knowledge while building valuable relationships. These connections often lead to resource sharing, bulk purchasing opportunities, and mutual support during challenging times. The psychological aspects of this stage are fascinating because you're starting to experience genuine confidence in your abilities. You're no longer just hoping your systems will work. You know they will because you've tested them, refined them, and proven them through real-world use. This confidence is incredibly empowering, and it changes how you approach challenges throughout your life. You also start to develop what I call systems thinking, where you naturally consider the interconnections and cascading effects of any change or decision. This perspective is valuable far beyond self-sufficiency applications. It makes you a better problem solver in all areas of life. The key to success at this stage is patience and persistence. You're building complex systems that take time to mature and optimize. Don't expect perfection immediately. Instead, focus on continuous improvement and gradual expansion. Each season teaches you something new about your systems and provides opportunities for refinement. Remember that setbacks are learning opportunities, not failures. That batch of fermented vegetables that didn't turn out right teaches you something valuable about the process. The solar system that underperformed during cloudy weather shows you where you need backup systems. Every challenge makes your overall system more robust and your skills more comprehensive. This is also the stage where you start to see the true benefits of your self-sufficiency efforts. You're not just preparing for potential disruptions anymore, you're actively improving your quality of life. Your homegrown food tastes better and costs less. Your renewable energy systems reduce your monthly bills. Your repair skills save money and provide satisfaction. Your preservation methods let you enjoy seasonal abundance year-round. The transition from dependence to self-sufficiency is gradual but profound. Each system you master, each skill you develop, each connection you build creates more options and more resilience. You're not just surviving anymore, you're thriving with greater security, lower costs, and deeper satisfaction than the purely consumer lifestyle can provide. This is where self-sufficiency becomes truly rewarding, not just as insurance against uncertainty, but as a path to a richer, more connected, and more meaningful way of life. Now that you've built your core systems and developed essential skills, it's time to focus on optimization and integration. This is where self-sufficiency transforms from a collection of separate practices into a cohesive, efficient lifestyle that truly serves you. Think of it this way: you've been learning individual instruments, now it's time to form the orchestra. The magic happens when your water system feeds your garden waste feeds your compost enriches your soil, and your preserved harvest reduces your grocery bills. These interconnections create resilience and efficiency that multiplies your efforts. Let's start with energy optimization, because energy flows through everything you do. If you've installed solar panels or a small wind system, you're already generating power. But generation is only half the equation. The real game changer is understanding your energy patterns and matching them to your lifestyle. Most people think about energy backwards. They generate power and then try to use it. Instead, think about shifting your energy intensive activities to match your generation peaks. Run your washing machine when the sun is brightest. Charge your devices during peak production hours. Use your dehydrator or other preservation equipment when you have excess power. This isn't about restricting your life, it's about working with natural rhythms. Your great grandmother didn't do laundry at night because she worked with daylight. You can work with your solar generation in the same way, but with far more convenience. Battery storage changes this equation, but even with batteries, timing matters. Use direct solar power for immediate needs and save stored power for evening essentials. This approach extends battery life and maximizes your energy independence. Water systems offer similar optimization opportunities. If you've set up rainwater collection, you're already ahead of most people. But how you use that water determines its real value. Gravity-fed systems work best when you think vertically. Store water high, use it low. This simple principle can eliminate the need for pumps in many situations. Gray water systems multiply your water's value. The water from your kitchen sink, washing machine, and bathroom sink can water your garden with minimal treatment. This isn't about complex engineering, it's about directing water where it's needed most. A simple diverter valve can send wash water to your fruit trees instead of the drain. Your food systems are where optimization really shines. By now, you've probably got some growing experience under your belt. You know which plants thrive in your space and which ones struggle. This is where you double down on what works and eliminate what doesn't. But here's what most people miss: the timing of your food systems. Stagger your planting so you're not overwhelmed with tomatoes all at once. Plant lettuce every 2 weeks for continuous harvests. Time your preservation activities to match your harvest peaks. This smooths out the feast or famine cycle that frustrates many beginning gardeners. Companion planting becomes crucial at this stage. Your plants should be helping each other grow. Basil near tomatoes doesn't just save space, it improves flavor and repels pests. Beans fix nitrogen that feeds your corn. Marigolds throughout your garden create a natural pest management system. The preservation side of your food system needs optimization too. If you're dehydrating, pickling, and freezing, you're already preserving variety. But are you preserving strategically? Focus on preserving foods that are expensive to buy or impossible to find locally. Preserve foods you actually eat regularly, not just foods that preserve well. Your storage systems should work together. Root vegetables in cool storage, dried goods in sealed containers, fermented foods in controlled environments. Each method has its strengths, and using them in combination gives you year-round food security. Skill development at this stage becomes more specialized. You've learned basic repair, now focus on the repairs most relevant to your situation. If you rely on solar power, electrical troubleshooting becomes crucial. If you've got a garden, understanding soil biology pays dividends. If you preserve food, mastering fermentation opens up new possibilities. But don't forget the meta skill of teaching. As you become more capable, others will want to learn from you. Teaching others doesn't just help your community, it deepens your own understanding. Every question someone asks forces you to think about your systems more clearly. Financial optimization often gets overlooked, but it's crucial for long-term sustainability. Track what your self-sufficiency efforts are actually saving you. That garden might be saving you $200 a year in groceries. Those solar panels might be saving you $100 a month in electricity. These aren't just feel-good activities, they're investments with real returns. But also track your time investments. If you're spending 20 hours a week maintaining systems that save you $50 a month, you might want to reconsider your approach. Efficiency matters, and some self sufficiency activities are more effective than others. Resource sharing becomes more important as your skills develop. You don't need to own every tool or master every skill. Building relationships with neighbors who have complementary abilities creates a more resilient community. You might specialize in food preservation while your neighbor focuses on small engine repair. Tool sharing libraries, skill exchanges, and informal networks multiply everyone's capabilities. The person who knows plumbing can help with your water system. The person who's mastered canning can teach you new preservation techniques. This isn't just about saving money, it's about building the social connections that make communities resilient. Seasonal optimization is something you'll develop naturally as you gain experience. Your first year, you're just trying to keep plants alive. Your second year, you start to understand your local growing patterns. By your third year, you're working with the seasons instead of against them. This means planning your big projects for the right times of year. Build your greenhouse in late summer when you have time but before you need it. Start your seeds at the right time for your climate, not when the store tells you to. Harvest and preserve when foods are at their peak, not when it's convenient. Weather patterns become your ally instead of your enemy. You learn to read the signs that tell you when to harvest before a storm, when to plant after the last frost, when to prune before new growth starts. This isn't mystical knowledge, it's practical observation applied over time. Your system should be reducing your workload, not increasing it. If you're spending more time maintaining your self-sufficiency systems than you're saving, something needs adjustment. Good systems become easier to maintain over time, not harder. This is where automation and smart design pay off. Drip irrigation systems water your plants without daily attention. Mulch reduces weeding and watering. Perennial plants produce food year after year without replanting. Solar panels generate power without daily maintenance. But automation isn't just about technology. It's about creating systems that maintain themselves. Compost systems that don't need turning, garden layouts that minimize walking, storage systems that make inventory obvious at a glance. The goal is to create abundance, not just sufficiency. When your systems are optimized, you're not just meeting your needs, you're creating surplus. Surplus food to share with neighbors, surplus energy to sell back to the grid, surplus skills to teach others, surplus time to enjoy life. This abundance mindset changes everything. Instead of hoarding resources, you're sharing them. Instead of working harder, you're working smarter. Instead of surviving, you're thriving. This is where self-sufficiency becomes truly sustainable, because it's adding value to your life rather than just reducing dependencies. Remember, optimization is an ongoing process. Your needs will change, your skills will develop, and your systems will evolve. What works in your first year might not work in your fifth year. Stay flexible, keep learning, and don't be afraid to change course when something isn't working. The most optimized system is the one that serves your actual life, not some theoretical ideal. Your self-sufficiency journey should be making your life better, more secure, and more enjoyable. If it's not doing that, it's time to optimize. Now let's talk about the real game changer, the thing that separates those who dabble in self-sufficiency from those who truly thrive in it. It's not just about having the right systems or knowing the proper techniques. It's about developing what I call the self-sufficient mindset. And honestly, this might be the most important part of your entire journey. See, most people approach self-sufficiency like they're preparing for some apocalyptic scenario. They stockpile supplies, build elaborate systems, and then wonder why it all feels so overwhelming and unsustainable. But here's the thing, true self-sufficiency isn't about fear or scarcity. It's about abundance, creativity, and a deep sense of personal empowerment that fundamentally changes how you see the world. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and instead of feeling dependent on a dozen different systems and services you can't control, you feel genuinely capable. You know that if something breaks, you can fix it. If there's a shortage, you have alternatives. If prices go up, you have options. That feeling, that quiet confidence, that's what we're really building here. The mindset shift starts with changing your relationship to problems. Most people see a broken appliance and think, great, now I need to call someone and spend money I don't have. But when you develop a self sufficient mindset, you start thinking, interesting challenge, let me figure this out. It's not about being stubborn or refusing help. It's about approaching life from a position of curiosity and capability rather than helplessness. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and it definitely doesn't happen by accident. You need to actively cultivate it, and there are specific ways to do that. First, start celebrating small wins. Every time you fix something yourself, grow something successfully, or solve a problem with your own hands, acknowledge it. These moments build confidence, and confidence is the foundation of everything else. Second, embrace the learning process. You're going to mess things up, and that's not just okay, it's essential. Every mistake teaches you something valuable about your systems, your environment, or your own capabilities. I've killed more plants than I care to admit, but each dead tomato plant taught me something about watering, soil, or timing that made me better at growing food. Third, start thinking in terms of resourcefulness rather than resources. It's not about having the most expensive tools or the biggest budget. It's about being creative with what you have, finding multiple uses for single items, and seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. That old shipping container could become a root cellar. Those fallen branches could become kindling or garden borders. That broken washing machine could provide parts for other projects. The beautiful thing about developing this mindset is that it spills over into every area of your life. You become more creative at work, more resilient in relationships, more confident in your daily decisions. You start seeing abundance everywhere because you've trained yourself to recognize potential and possibility. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you. One of the biggest barriers to developing a self-sufficient mindset is perfectionism. People get so caught up in doing everything perfectly that they never actually start doing anything. They research endlessly, plan meticulously, and then get paralyzed by the gap between their vision and their current reality. Here's the truth. Your first vegetable garden is going to be messy. Your first attempt at preserving food might not work perfectly. Your initial energy systems will have inefficiencies. And that's completely fine because you're not trying to build the perfect homestead right out of the gate. You're trying to build the skills, knowledge, and confidence that will serve you for decades. Think of it like learning to drive. Nobody expects you to navigate rush hour traffic on your first day behind the wheel. You start in an empty parking lot, you practice the basics, you gradually take on more challenging situations. Self-sufficiency works exactly the same way. You start with simple projects, build your confidence, and gradually take on more complex challenges. This is where the concept of progressive independence becomes really powerful. Instead of trying to become completely self-sufficient overnight, you systematically reduce your dependence on external systems one area at a time. Maybe this year you focus on growing 30% of your vegetables. Next year you add food preservation. The year after that you tackle basic repairs and maintenance. Each step builds on the previous one, and more importantly, each step builds your confidence and competence. By the time you're handling complex projects, you've already proven to yourself that you can learn new skills, solve problems, and adapt to challenges. That confidence is worth more than any tool or system you could buy. Let's talk about something else that's crucial, the social aspect of self-sufficiency. There's this myth that being self-sufficient means being isolated, but that's completely backwards. The most resilient people I know are deeply connected to their communities. They share resources, trade skills, and support each other through challenges. Building relationships with neighbors, joining local groups, participating in community gardens, or skill-sharing networks, these aren't departures from self-sufficiency. They're essential parts of it. When you know the guy down the street who keeps bees and he knows you grow vegetables, you've both become more self-sufficient through that relationship. This community aspect also helps with one of the biggest challenges in developing self-sufficiency, staying motivated over the long term. When you're part of a community of people who share your values and goals, you get encouragement when things get tough, advice when you're stuck, and celebration when you succeed. But here's where it gets really interesting. As you develop genuine self-sufficiency, you actually become more valuable to your community, not less. You become someone others can count on. You have skills to share, resources to offer, and knowledge to pass along. You become part of the solution rather than just another person depending on systems that might not always be there. This brings us to what I think is the most profound aspect of the self sufficient mindset: the shift from consumption to creation. Most of us have been trained to be consumers. We buy what we need, we replace what breaks, we upgrade when something better comes along. But self sufficiency turns you into a creator. You start making things instead of just buying them. You start fixing things instead of replacing them. You start growing things instead of just purchasing them. This shift changes how you see everything around you. That pile of branches isn't yard waste, it's potential building material. That broken appliance isn't trash, it's a source of parts and a learning opportunity. The creation mindset also makes you more innovative. When you can't just buy a solution, you have to invent one. Maybe you need a way to water your plants while you're traveling, so you create a simple drip irrigation system from plastic bottles. Maybe you need more storage space, so you build shelves from reclaimed wood. These aren't just practical solutions, they're expressions of your creativity and capability. This is where self sufficiency becomes genuinely fulfilling rather than just practical. There's something deeply satisfying about eating food you grew yourself, using tools you've made or modified, living in a space you've improved with your own hands. It connects you to a long tradition of human ingenuity and self reliance that we've largely lost in our modern world. But let's be honest about the challenges too. Developing a self sufficient mindset requires you to step outside your comfort zone regularly. It means accepting that you'll sometimes fail, sometimes struggle, and sometimes feel overwhelmed. It means being okay with imperfection while you're learning. The key is to approach these challenges with curiosity rather than judgment. When something doesn't work, instead of thinking, I'm terrible at this, try thinking, that's interesting. I wonder what I can learn from this. When you feel overwhelmed, instead of giving up, try breaking the problem down into smaller, more manageable pieces. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every person who seems naturally self sufficient actually developed those skills through practice, experimentation, and yes, plenty of failures. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up isn't talent or natural ability, it's persistence and the willingness to keep learning. As you develop this mindset, you'll notice something wonderful happening. Problems that used to stress you out become interesting puzzles to solve. Challenges that used to seem impossible become opportunities to learn new skills. Setbacks that used to feel like failures become valuable learning experiences. This shift in perspective is perhaps the most valuable outcome of pursuing self-sufficiency. Even if you never become completely independent from external systems, you'll have developed a way of thinking and approaching life that makes you more resilient, more creative, and more confident in whatever situations you face. The self-sufficient mindset isn't just about being prepared for emergencies or reducing your dependence on others. It's about reclaiming your sense of personal agency and capability. It's about remembering that humans are incredibly adaptable, resourceful, and creative when we give ourselves the chance to be. So as you continue on this journey, remember that the systems and skills you're building are important, but the mindset you're developing is what will truly transform your life. Embrace the learning process, celebrate your progress, connect with others who share your values, and most importantly, enjoy the satisfaction that comes from becoming more capable and self-reliant with each passing day. Now, as you approach the end of this journey toward greater self-sufficiency, it's time to recognize something profound. You're not just building systems or acquiring skills, you're fundamentally transforming your relationship with the world around you. You're stepping into a different way of being, one that's been largely forgotten in our modern age of convenience and consumption. The truth is, true self-sufficiency isn't about isolating yourself from the world or proving you can survive without anyone else. It's about becoming so skilled, so resourceful, and so adaptable that you can engage with the world from a position of strength rather than desperation. When you're not dependent on fragile systems for your basic needs, you have the freedom to make choices based on your values rather than your vulnerabilities. This transformation changes everything. Your relationship with money shifts dramatically when you can provide your own food, water, and energy. Suddenly, you're not trapped in jobs that drain your soul just to pay for necessities. You can take risks, pursue passions, and make decisions based on what truly matters to you rather than what you can afford. Your relationship with uncertainty changes too. When you have deep skills and multiple backup systems, unexpected events become opportunities rather than catastrophes. A power outage becomes a chance to test your off grid systems. A supply chain disruption becomes validation of your food storage strategy. Economic volatility becomes irrelevant when you've reduced your dependence on the very systems that create that volatility. But perhaps most importantly, your relationship with yourself transforms. Every skill you master, every system you build, every challenge you overcome adds to your confidence and sense of capability. You stop seeing yourself as a consumer who needs to be provided for and start seeing yourself as a creator who can provide. This shift in identity is profound and permanent. The ripple effects extend far beyond your immediate circumstances. When you're secure in your ability to meet your basic needs, you become a stabilizing force in your community. You're the person others turn to when things go wrong. You're the one who can share knowledge, lend tools, and offer practical help. Your self-sufficiency becomes a gift to others, not a withdrawal from them. This is where the real magic happens. As you build your own resilience, you naturally start thinking about how to help others build theirs. You share seeds from your garden, teach neighbors how to preserve food, help friends install rainwater collection systems. Your journey toward self-sufficiency becomes a catalyst for community resilience. The skills you've developed start to compound in unexpected ways. Your understanding of natural systems helps you make better decisions about everything from investment strategies to career choices. Your ability to troubleshoot and repair things extends beyond physical objects to relationships and life challenges. Your experience with seasonal planning and resource management informs everything from business planning to personal development. You'll find that the mindset shifts are just as valuable as the practical skills. The patience you developed waiting for vegetables to grow serves you well in other long-term projects. The creativity you exercised in solving resource challenges helps you approach problems differently in all areas of life. The acceptance of imperfection you learned through trial and error makes you more resilient and adaptable in everything you do. The abundance mindset you've cultivated changes how you see opportunities everywhere. Instead of scarcity and competition, you see possibility and collaboration. Instead of problems, you see projects. Instead of limitations, you see design challenges. This shift in perspective is perhaps the most valuable outcome of your entire journey. As you continue to deepen your self-sufficiency, remember that it's not a destination, but a continuous evolution. Technology will advance, circumstances will change, and new challenges will emerge. But the foundation you've built, the skills you've developed, and the mindset you've cultivated will serve you regardless of what the future holds. The beautiful thing about this path is that it gets easier and more rewarding over time. Each year, your systems become more efficient, your skills more refined, and your confidence more unshakable. What once felt overwhelming becomes routine. What once seemed impossible becomes your daily reality. You've embarked on one of the most important journeys a person can take in the modern world. You've chosen to become truly free, truly capable, and truly resilient. You've decided to take responsibility for your own well-being rather than hoping someone else will handle it for you. This choice will serve you, your family, and your community for the rest of your life. The world needs more people like you, people who can think independently, act skillfully, and adapt creatively to changing circumstances. People who understand that true security comes not from external systems, but from internal capability. People who recognize that the best way to prepare for an uncertain future is to become more certain in your own abilities. Your journey toward self-sufficiency is ultimately a journey toward freedom. Freedom from dependence on fragile systems. Freedom from the anxiety that comes with vulnerability. Freedom to live according to your values rather than your fears. Freedom to create the life you want rather than accepting the life you're given. As you begin implementing these integrated systems, remember that self-sufficiency is not about achieving perfection overnight, but about making consistent progress toward greater independence and resilience. The beauty of this journey lies in how each small step builds upon the last, creating momentum that transforms not just your daily routines, but your entire relationship with the world around you. Start by choosing one area that resonates most with your current situation and interests. Whether it's growing your first container garden, learning to preserve food, or setting up a rainwater collection system, that initial success will fuel your motivation to tackle the next challenge. Document your progress, celebrate your victories, and learn from your setbacks. Each experience adds to your growing knowledge base and confidence. The systems you create will become increasingly interconnected over time. Your composting system feeds your garden, which provides food for preservation, which reduces your grocery dependence. Your water collection system supports your garden while reducing utility costs. Your repair skills extend the life of your tools and equipment, saving money that can be invested in other self-sufficiency projects. These connections create a web of resilience that strengthens your entire lifestyle. Community remains one of your most valuable resources throughout this process. Share your knowledge, trade surplus produce, and collaborate on larger projects. The relationships you build with like-minded neighbors and local producers create a support network that extends far beyond individual self-sufficiency. These connections often prove more valuable than any single skill or system you develop. As you progress, you'll notice subtle but profound changes in your perspective. You'll begin seeing opportunities where others see obstacles, resources where others see waste, and solutions where others see problems. This shift in mindset becomes one of the most valuable outcomes of your self-sufficiency journey, influencing decisions far beyond your immediate projects. The path forward requires patience, persistence, and adaptability. Some projects will exceed your expectations, while others may need modification or replacement. Economic conditions, family circumstances, and personal interests will evolve, requiring adjustments to your approach. This flexibility is not a weakness, but a strength that ensures your self-sufficiency efforts remain relevant and sustainable. Remember that every step toward self-sufficiency is a step toward greater freedom, security, and fulfillment. You're not just learning skills or building systems, you're reclaiming your agency in an increasingly complex world. The confidence that comes from knowing you can provide for yourself and your family is invaluable, regardless of external circumstances. Your journey towards self-sufficiency starts with a single action. Whether you take that step today or tomorrow, the important thing is that you begin. The skills you develop, the systems you create, and the mindset you cultivate will serve you for a lifetime, providing security, satisfaction, and the deep fulfillment that comes from living more intentionally and independently.